Good morning. My name is Imre Lévai. I would like to welcome our honored guests on our webinar. The presentation will be made by my biochemical engineer expert colleague, Tünde Fekete. Under the presentation, if you have any questions, please place your notes in the Q&A chat box, left-hand side of the screen. Now I would like to pass the word to Tünde.
Thank you, Imre. Hi, welcome you today here in the Biodegradability and Compostability webinar. I'm Tünde Fekete, a sustainability expert in TÜV SÜD, Hungary. So today's topic will be the requirements for packaging recoverable through composting and biodegradation. The agenda today is the following. You can see here an overview of the biopolymers, the principle of the biodegradability and compostability, an overview of the processes and the essential tests, and the difference between industrial and home composting environment. So let's start with a comprehensive overview of the biopolymers. So what is a biopolymer? There is no clear definition and several approaches are possible. There are three main criteria we are going to discuss today. So the first one is a biopolymer can be bio-based. This means that the material is made from a material that are renewable within the biosphere. It can be biocompatible. This means that this can be used within living organisms. And can be biodegradable, which means that can be broken down enzymatically. So if you think about a polymer or a biopolymer, it can also fulfill one, two, or all of the three requirements. So today, our definition for a biopolymer is that due to the sustainable chemistry in mind, today we will call those polymers biopolymers, whose production and application are sustainable and circular. So they are made from materials that are renewable within the biosphere, and they can be broken down enzymatically. So it should be bio-based and biodegradable. So I would like to discuss these three criteria one by one. So here you can see some examples for bio-based polymers like carbohydrates, which is starch, thermoplastic starch, plant cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin, and bacterial starch. There can be some polypeptides like silk or wool, and lipids like polyurethane made from lipid. So discuss these bio-based polymers one by one. Starch is a carbohydrate that can be found in corn, rice, or potato. So when we eat starchy foods like potato and rice, our bodies break the starch down into sugars, which gives us energy. But starch is also commonly used as a biopolymer. And starch is made up from two polysaccharides, from amylose and amylopectin. Both is composed from glucose units connected by glycosidic bonds. The commonly used material for biopolymers is so-called thermoplastic starch, which is come from the natural starch. This can be processed with conventional plastic industry technologies like injection molding and extrusion. But the thermoplastic starch expansion is hindered by its unsatisfactory mechanical properties and social pressure. And so what is the social pressure here? So as I mentioned, starch is a food, and why we would like to make plastic from it. A better alternative than starch is cellulose, then hemicellulose and lignin. These are also bio-based polymers. Where can we find cellulose in the nature? cellulose is the main component of the plant's dry matter, and the plant dry matter is consisting of cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. These three together called as lignocellulose, as you can see a picture in the right-hand side of the presentation. Lignocellulose is a complex matrix. It is produced as a byproduct from algae culture and has a huge potential. It can be extracted from the parts of the plant that are not directly consumed, such as leaves and stems. So the plant biomass can be used to produce value-added product in a biorefinery concept. The composition of the lignocellulose can be different or can be varied in different species. And the cellulose is surrounded by the network of lignin and hemicellulose. So cellulose is a linear polymer which can be found in plants. For example, like cotton contains 19% of cellulose and commonly used as a polymer. Hemicellulose has an irregular structure and other sugar components can be present in the structure. Rarely used as a polymer, but it can be broken down into sugars enzymatically. Lignin has a complex three-dimensional structure. It is currently a very researched area because it has an enormous potential, because today is like completely unused. It's usually burned. And there are so-called bacterial cellulose. Besides plant cellulose, there is a bacterial cellulose which is produced by microorganisms. So the evolution has invented the cellulose several times. It's called an evolutionary convergence. It means that they are structurally the same as the plant-based cellulose, but no evolutionary relationship can be detected between plant and bacterial cellulose. Because here is no hemicellulose and lignin, this material is more cleaner and has got better molecular properties. Also used for biopolymers. Polypeptides and lipids also can be used. The polypeptides, there are many protein-based biopolymers in the biosphere, and the technological challenge them is the extraction and the processing. There are also many lipids can be found in the biosphere which are bio-based. Let's go to our second criteria, which was biocompatible polymers. So biocompatible means that this can be used within the living organism. Basically, it is used for medical purposes. So all the examples here, like polyglycolic acid, and so on, these can be used inside the human body. Okay. And our third category was the biodegradable polymers. You can see some examples here, which is commonly used as biodegradable polymers, like polyhydroxyalkanoates, which is a polylactic acid, and polyhydroxybutyrate. The production of polylactic acid is a two-step process. The first step is the fermentation of the lactic acid, for example, with Lactobacillus lactis fermentation. And the step two is the polymerization of the lactic acid. This is the technological bottleneck. I would like to sum up about the biopolymers. So here you can see a Venn diagram. As we discussed, the definition today is that a biopolymer should be bio-based and biodegradable, but there can be some polymers that are bio-based but not biodegradable, and also it can be biodegradable but not bio-based. Here are some examples. The bio-based material, but not biodegradable, for example, is biopolyethylene, which is made from sugarcane, but structurally is the same as the conventional polyethylene, which is commonly known as that it is not a biodegradable material. Bio-based and biodegradable materials, as we discussed, it's the cellulose, starch, and polylactic acid. biodegradable but not bio-based material is the polybutylene succinate from petroleum. And in the next slide, you can see also common materials that are used as biopolymers, the polylactic acid, which is made from fermented from starch. This is widely used in packaging and disposable items. Starch-based plastics, which is come from natural starch. They are materials often used in bags or food containers. Cellulose is also very commonly used in films or coatings. Chitosan is also used as films or coatings, and there can be other natural fiber composites like hemp or jute. So there is a strong trend to use bio-based materials that are also biodegradable, aligned with the sustainability goals and consumer prefer. So now we discussed the biopolymers, and let's go to our next part. I would like to talk to you about the principle of biodegradability and compostability, basically the differences between biodegradation and compostability. So the biodegradation is a natural decomposition of the material by microorganisms, generating carbon dioxide, water, and other solid residues, but it can leave potentially harmful residues in the environment. While compostability, this is the ability of the material to decompose into non-toxic components under specific conditions within defined time frame, resulting in high quality and high nutrition compost. So all the compostable items are biodegradable, but not all the biodegradable items are compostable due to the different environmental requirements and outcomes. Okay. So let's discuss the essential tests and standards, which is can be mentioned here. So the overview of the applicable standards. First, I would like to show you some industrial composting standards. As you can see, there are many European or also American standards in this field. There can be standards which are requirement standards and also testing standards. Today's most important standard is the EN 13432 standard, which is contains requirements for packaging recoverable through composting and biodegradation. And let's discuss the most essential tests and processes, which is a requirement in the standards. So first, first is the product testing or the chemical testing. Here we test the material characteristics and chemical characteristics like material analysis and heavy metal analysis. The second test is biodegradability. This measures the packaging material's rate of metabolic, microbiological conversion into water, carbon dioxide, mineral salts of any other elements present, and new cell biomass. The requirement here is that all the products should be at least 19% biodegradable within 6 months. The third important test here is the disintegration. This means that the breakdown of the material or how fast the material falls apart. After 12 weeks of composting and sheaving through 2 millimeter sheave, no more than 10% of the original mass of residues may remain. And last essential test is ecotoxicity or compost testing. This is the investigation of the effect of resulting compost on the plant-go ecotoxicity test. And I would like to show you a flow chart from the standard to discuss these requirements more detailed. So you have first you have a plastic product. is it a monomaterial plastic? If no, each of the constituents should be tested separately. If it is a monomaterial plastic, then you should measure the thickness or a surface ratio. Has this material been evaluated before? So if yes, then you should accept the products that are not so thick as it was tested before, and only the disintegration should be tested. If the material hasn't been evaluated before, then you should measure the heavy metals first. So, are the heavy metals within limit? If it's not, then your product is not accepted as compostable. Then our second criteria is measure the volatile solids. Is the volatile solid within limits or within the requirement? If not, then it's also not accepted. If yes, then you can go to the identification of the plastics. So are these plastics knowingly become harmful to the environment during the biological treatment? If yes, then it is not accepted as compostable. If no, then you should go and check the biodegradability test. So as I mentioned earlier here, that if it's a monomaterial plastic, then this material should be tested. If it's not a monomaterial plastic, then all the constituents, organic constituents that are more than 1% should be tested separately. All should be fulfill the requirement that they all should be 19% biodegradable. If not, then it is not accepted. If the biodegradability test is done, then you should do the disintegration test. The requirement here is that the 10% material may remain after the composting. If it's more than 10%, then it is not accepted. Then you check the compost you gained from the disintegration. Is there any negative effect on the composting process? That it is not accepted. So then you check the physical or chemical parameters on the sample which is obtained after the disintegration test. Is there any national or European requirements or legislations? They need to fulfill these requirements. So if it's not, then it is not accepted. If yes, then you should check the ecotoxicity testing. Is there any significant difference between the blank compost and the tested compost? If not, then your product is accepted as compostable. I would like to talk about a little bit about our instrumentation here in TÜV SÜD Kármi. So we have a respirometer for biodegradability testing. The respirometer is a device that measures oxygen and carbon dioxide concentration in flow through under controlled conditions. And with this instrument, the evaluation of the gases could be monitored real time along the test. We also have a climate chamber for the disintegration and germination testing. We can properly reproduce natural circumstances, for example, like temperature, humidity, and in this chamber, we are doing the disintegration test. In addition, we have a same climate chamber as a plant growth device with lightning for the germination test. Let's talk about more details about our instruments. So you can see here raw data from a respirometer. The respirometer measures approximately every 2 or 5 minutes. It shows us parameters like oxygen, carbon dioxide, additionally methane and hydrogen sulfide can be measured. It also so as it is a flow-through system, you can also see a flow on horizon, the flow MFC, which is means the speed of the passing air during the in and out flow in the sample. There is the temperature when the measurement was taken, the chamber temperature, the pressure and the humidity when the measurement was taken, the consumption of oxygen, the production of carbon dioxide, and the biodegradability in a percentage form. The respirometer can also show us the carbon dioxide evaluation curve and the biodegradability evaluation curve in real time along the tests. Okay. So I would like to show some pictures about the disintegration and ecotoxicity testing. So the first picture is the disintegration, where you can see the material is put into the compost, and after 12 weeks of composting, it should be degraded. And the outcome of the disintegration, the compost, is the tested material in the ecotoxicity testing. And here you can see in this picture some plants that have been tested. Okay, what is the difference between industrial and home composting environment? So let's start with the applicable standards also here in home composting environment. So there are French, Australian, and European standards for home composting environment. These are specifications for home composting tests, and also you can see the testing standards also. So the main differences between home and industrial composting is the temperature. Industrial composting is a much higher temperature, like 50 or 70 Celsius degree, while home composting is a more ambient temperature, and so it is depends on the season and the geographical location also. And the handling of the compost is a little bit different. So the mentioned standards, the French and the European standards, also include guidelines how to a well-managed composting should look like. But the European standard is limited to carrier bags. And let's say the home composting standards is a bit strict than the industrial ones. So you need to do ecotoxicity and animal toxicity testing also, so the well-being of the worms. And other chemical parameters are also should be tested, like hazard the substances, very high substances of very high concern. Why we would like to use biodegradable products? What are the advantages of using them? So nowadays, many international regulations are present. For example, the European Union's Circular Economy Action Plan emphasizes making sustainable products the norm and focusing high-impact sectors, which has increased the demand for eco-friendly packaging solutions. Also, environmental benefits like the biodegradable products break down naturally and reduce the risk of packaging causing environmental harm. Many consumers prefer environmental friendly products and refuse to purchase packaging that is not biodegradable. And these products are often or should be made from renewable resources, such as plant-based materials, which are more sustainable than a petroleum-based plastic. And let's sum up what are we discussed today. So what is a biopolymer? The biopolymer should be bio-based and biodegradable. The difference between the biodegradability and compostability testing. Biodegradable is a natural decomposition but can be harmful residues, while compostability is a more controlled biodegradability within a defined time frame, and the outcome is a nutrient-rich compost. The industrial composting and the essential tests, like the chemical test, biodegradability, disintegration, and ecotoxicity testing, and the difference between industrial and home composting. Industrial composting has a higher temperature, while home composting is in the more ambient temperature and more strict standards on this field. Okay, so thank you for your kind attention.